This video was made in association with KnifeInformer.com. Head on over to Knife Informer for all of your blade-related needs, including reviews, comparisons, stats, and more. What is up, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Collection Commentary. In today's video, we're going to be taking a look at these two Monkey Edge frag pattern knives that have recently found their way into my collection. We, of course, have a Shiro 95 frag and an Ultratech from Microtech. Now, before I get too deep into explaining what exactly I'm doing here with this video and why these knives are being paired together, let's just go ahead and jump into some of the statistics here and get the weight and size comparison going for both of these knives, just so you guys get a quick idea of what we're working with here. Alright, so we will go ahead and start with the weight, and we will begin with the Ultratech, which comes in at 3.3 ounces. So that is below that 3.5 ounce threshold, you know, in that range that we talk about on this channel for general EDC use. So it's a surprisingly light knife considering how much is going on inside and everything like that. It's a full aluminum construction, and you know, the blade isn't too particularly thick or anything like that. So it actually really keeps its weight down and makes for a really enjoyable carry. I'll actually talk about how I carry this knife later on, and that weight will come into play when I do so. Next, let's check on this Shiro. Now, this is the 95 frag. If we think back to the video where the video that I released with 3 different Shirogorovs in it, it had this 95S, and then it had a 3 Bears 95R, and that was on loan from my friend Rich. And then there was Shirogorov Haiti R, which was on loan as well from my friend John. Now, this knife has the most in common with the 3 Bears 95R. And so this is going to have internal milling just as the other knife does. It is on multi-row bearings just as the other knife has. And so the only difference here is that the pattern on the frame itself is going to be different. So I do think that this frame is a little bit thicker. Unfortunately, I don't have any of those knives available to me for comparison. And I could be wrong about that. I don't know. I think the frag pattern kind of extends a little further beyond the main size of the frame. But I don't remember what the weight of the 95R was in the previous video, but the weight on this knife will be a little bit thrown off because of the bead that I have here. It is a pewter bead. It doesn't weigh a ton, but it's certainly not light either. So at 5.2 ounces, you can see this is a fairly heavy package all in all, but I do enjoy carrying it along with my Ultratech, and so I'll talk about that in a minute. Okay, so let's go ahead and get a size comparison going. I'll just get all of these knives opened up, and we will, as is customary, check out these knives against a Paramilitary 2 and a Rat 2. All right. As you can see here, the lanyard bead thing is sort of catching on for me. Should I include the glass breaker there or not? I think I'm gonna not include that. Get these lined up. I'm having a little bit of difficulty today. All right, so you can see that we have a pretty good scaling procession here. I have already talked about, again, in that previous video, about the matchup between one of these 9-inch Shirogorovs and a Paramilitary 2. It does exceed it in length, but overall, the rest of the knife is fairly similar in terms of shape. The handle length is almost identical. The curvature of the handles overall is almost identical, although on the Shirogorov, it's a little bit more it's a little less curved and a little bit more tapered, especially in these two regions compared to the PM2, which does hook around a little bit more. But ultimately, pretty similar sizes there. The Ultratech, surprisingly long, actually, when you really look at it. It pretty much matches the PM2 perfectly, although you do have a pretty rectangular, pretty reasonable handle to grip onto here. So the size doesn't really feel overwhelming, and the blade isn't so long or large that you really become intimidated by the size. And then, of course, all of these knives dwarfing the Rat 2, which doesn't really have a stake in this game. Alright, so let's move on. So what I want to do here real quick is kind of just jump into each knife individually and give you a quick overview. So let's go ahead and start with the 95 Frag and sort of where it fits in the Shiro scale. I mentioned before it's very similar to the 95R 3 bears. So again, you do have the multi-row bearing system. You have the internal milling here. This knife is pretty dirty, so I don't want to get up in there with a flashlight and really show that off. And so while the knife is a bit on the heavier side, it's really, really fantastic. And the thing that bums me out about not having had this knife when I did the previous video about the 3 bears walk into a bar, whatever I called it, is that I had a lot of complaints about the sort of mechanics of a lot of those knives. And, you know, I experienced a lot of lock stick and really inconsistent actions, and I didn't really have an amazing Shiro experience to pair all that up against, except for some of the Shiro gloves that I tried at Blade Show, which were much more impressive. But the thing that really makes this particular Shiro special to me and a mainstay in my collection at this point is that it's mechanically perfect. What I mean by that is it has a perfectly consistent drop shut action. There's no hesitation in the blade as it gets towards the bottom of dropping shut. You can see it just has to get past the point where gravity takes hold, and the knife does the rest. And it's this consistency with which it does this that's the most impressive. It really is the same every time. Even if I manage to slip my finger onto the lock bar a little bit, it doesn't really have an impact. So in terms of fall shutness, this is the singly best example of a Shiro I've ever felt. And then the other thing that this knife completely lacks is any form of lock stick on any level, in any way, at any time. I've never once experienced it. I've flipped this thing probably 1,000 times by now. And I've never once experienced lock stick. So it has a perfectly clean disengagement of the lock bar, and then falls shut perfectly consistently every time. So this is a mechanically perfect Shiro Gorov. I'm super excited to own this because I never thought I would find one, and so that makes it really special to me. And so like I said before, it kind of fits into sort of the 3 bears 95R territory in terms of the makeup and what's happening. It is an M390 blade, as you can see here, and everything like that. I did add this bead onto this particular knife. If there's any Warhammer fans out there, you'll notice that this is a Space Marine helmet. Pretty cool. If you're a fan, if you don't know what Warhammer is or you don't know the franchise, then this will mean nothing to you. But super cool bead that I managed to get off of Instagram, so I was pretty happy with that. And then, of course, I used the purple paracord to both give the ultimately plain gray knife a little bit of color and to match the beautiful purple of the Ultratech. So let's go ahead and jump into the Ultratech with that segue. So the first thing that I want to say about this knife is that I've completely fallen in love with it, and it is what I thought was going to be a showpiece for me. Automatics are technically illegal where I live, and so I knew that it was something that I wouldn't really be able to carry or get out much with, or really be able to get the most out of, just because I really shouldn't have it. And in addition to that, I had tried a buddy of mine, Brian. I had tried his automatics before and pretty much immediately determined that out the fronts and that automatics weren't for me. Just really, difficult to operate with the button, and it was already illegal, and it just didn't really attract me. It seemed too almost aggressive to really get enjoyment out of. But I ended up buying this knife because I'd seen a tri-grip version of this in the purple on Reddit's Knife Swap, and I really fell in love with that knife aesthetically. And so I was really interested in that, and that got me looking at Ultratechs, and I started looking all around the internet and scouring all of the different sales pages that I could find for Ultratechs, and I knew that I had to have one in my collection, and I was really looking for the purple tri-grip. I missed out on the one that was on Knife Swap, and so that was kind of like the only one that I was interested in, and so I ventured for that for about a month and a half, and was never really able to find one for sale. And in that meantime, I won the Shiro frag pattern in a raffle. And so when this knife came, I kind of noticed that there were frag pattern options in the Ultratechs. And so I said, well, all right, I can substitute the tri-grip pattern for the frag pattern, and that'll be pretty cool, and it'll match my Shiro, and then I'll have 2 frag pattern knives. So that'll be sweet. So then I started looking for frag pattern ones, and I kept finding green and like black, and those weren't really doing it for me. I came pretty close on like a Tonto green one that was pretty cool. But then one day I was actually on Monkey Edge's website, and I was clicking back a few pages, and I found this, and I was like, oh my god, it's purple, it's the right pattern, and I didn't like the Microtech logo on the front here, which is another reason I really like the patterns. And I was like, oh wow, that is super neat. That's exactly what I want for my collection. So I bought it, and then I completely fell in love with it. It is a box cutting king. It is incredibly, incredibly sharp right out of the box. I love using this to break down boxes at work. It's very popular with non-knife people, and it has this amazing, beautiful purple color to it that really makes it a perfect fit for my collection. So now I want to talk a little bit about my Monkey Edge frag pattern obsession and kind of like what's next. You know, this all started with kind of an accident with me winning this knife in a raffle, but I have to say with the purple and the frag pattern matching and everything, I love carrying these together. So I mentioned earlier I carry this in a particular way. So this knife actually goes in my pocket, and that's what the little lanyard bead is for, because I have had trouble in the past with pulling Shiros out of the pocket, because you end up having to put pressure on the clip here when you pull it out. So this is helpful for deployment of that. I ended up getting the purple to match, which I was really excited with. And then I actually take this knife, and just as I've mentioned in the past with this JD Van Deventer front flipper, I actually take this and I clip it to the top of my pocket. So if you can imagine, this knife is in the pants like this, and then this slides into the pocket this way and is clipped sort of to the roof of the pocket. And like I said, it's pretty light, so it doesn't really fall down. And I just kind of keep it tucked up in there, and I'm able to carry 2 knives in one pocket. So I very, very, very much enjoy that. However, the frag pattern thing has definitely kind of been a bug that's bitten me, and I'm really excited to try to add more pieces to the collection. I kind of want like a little frag pattern thing going on. The trouble is there aren't too many options, and I'm not a big fan of a lot of the companies that are involved. So definitely 2 things that are on the docket are the Fellholter Tie-Bolt titanium pen that you can see here. And I think this pen is super sweet. It would give me something that's not a knife that kind of also fits into the Monkey Edge frag pattern theme and would let me piece together a nice little everyday carry. And then the other thing I want to add is a fixed blade, particularly this Strider knives fixed DB-L in CPM 3V. Now, I don't really like mixed Strider, and I don't really like Tony either. It is what it is. There's very few knives to choose from when it comes to the frag patterns, and they're cool knives, so, you know, it is what it is. I got this one direct from Monkey Edge. I will be getting the fixed blade from the secondary market if I can find one that's reasonably priced. All of the ones that I found so far have been, people want like $400 for them, which is like new pricing, and they're never in perfect condition either. So hopefully I can find one of those. If I can get these 2 knives in one pocket and then carry a fixed blade on my waist and carry the Fellholter pen as well in like a shirt pocket, that would make me really excited. That would be a really cool kind of frag pattern theme to put together. I'm sure I could find like a frag pattern Hank to go along with all that, and that would make me really happy. As a collector, I like doing little theme stuff like that, and so that's kind of something that I'm going to look forward to trying to pull off sometime in the future. So the last thing that I want to say, guys, is that this is kind of the first in a series of sort of combo videos that I'm thinking about doing. I'm planning on sort of buying combo sets of knives because I found that I actually really like having entire, like, they don't have to be themed like the Monkey Edge frag pattern, but I like having pairs of knives to kind of like a big and a small, or like little combos and stuff. So an example of that in the future might be these Thorburns. I do like my big Thorburn, little Thorburn combo. This is bright, shiny, and blue. This is dark, gloomy, and gray. And then you may see me pick up like a small Sabenza, which would pair up well with my Umnumzon. You can see the combo happening here. And then there are certainly other combos in the works. This JD Van Deventer front flipper will be comboed with a special custom that I recently got my hands on. So be excited and look forward to that. Thanks so much for watching, guys. Of course, if you'd like to see beautiful pictures of all these amazing knives, I have a particularly cool picture of these two knives. You can do so by following me on Instagram at tovarishworks. If you'd like to send me a lovely loaner, I would super appreciate that, and you can do so by emailing me at tovarishworks@gmail.com. Thanks so much for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you next time.